Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Gachiakuta, Season 1.
Yep, Gachiakuta, Season 1, Episode 9. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back for more anime in the dojo. And, well, last week, Rudo got his first taste of sweets. Delicacy. Can't wait to meet the food group, see if Soma's in charge of it or what. But, yeah, I mean, training. Got to get ready to go out into no man's land, meet the lady, that kind of stuff. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. But we got plenty of time because, once again, this is a 2-core season. So this is going to run through here, basically. So, either way, the madness continues. We got to meet both leaders from the two factions, the Cleaners and the Raiders. So we have that established. And stuff is going to occur. We got more on Rudo's power, how it functions, that kind of thing. Information, but not information overload, which is important. So just have to see where it goes from here. Obviously, we know what the overarching goal is, what could potentially happen in this series, but there's probably going to be a bunch of random side stuff for the Cleaners, that kind of thing. Random stuff going on the surface versus the sphere, if we ever get back to the sphere, that kind of thing. So we'll just have to see what direction this takes us. But for now, it's been pretty solid. We were talking about before we started recording that we have mentioned the graffiti in this, and just random side note is it's all done by one person. All of it. Like, canonically. There's a graffiti artist that does the graffiti for the show and the manga itself for the author. And, it's all one person, so that's pretty neat that they have somebody doing something like that, because obviously it's a big part of this world, especially with the guy that we saw that's like a giver for like painting tools, basically. So we'll just have to see if he has a major role to play at any point for anything, or if that was like a shout out to the actual person doing the artwork, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I don't know if that's like supposed to be like the guy's stand-in character, but I know that the guy is apparently like close friends with the author, and she has him do all of the graffiti art for the series.
Yep. So either way, this episode is titled City of Graffiti, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But yeah, at this point, we're just up for whatever. Just have to see where this goes from here, and then we can speculate on what's next. But there is plenty of stuff going on at the moment that we have speculated on, so we'll just have to do that and see what happens from here. So we're going to go ahead and push some buttons and see what's up this week. So as always, people on Patreon will get the timer set up here, and people on YouTube, we will see you on the other side of the edit for the discussion and review. So let's push those buttons and see what's up with this week. So here goes some. Well, alrighty then. You guys ever go wash your hands at like 4 a.m. and you come back to your room and there's a hot girl in your bed? I don't know why that can't happen to me every once in a while. It hasn't happened once yet, so, I can't put it up on the board. So, but for Rudo, man, that happened on like day 2. So, his board already has the mark, so there you go. But, yeah, that was, we talked a little bit about it there at the end of the reaction of, I'm glad they're touching on the family stuff, because that's going to be an overarching thing for Rudo. Some of the other characters, that kind of thing, especially what Rio mentioned here about potentially other people in the Cleaners faction, and just how their parents might have handled certain situations in general, whether they're related to the sphere, that kind of thing. It will be interesting to see going forward if at any point we get like the cataclysmic event that made the sphere exist, like the Rich launched off the planet. That was like what happened, what was the cataclysmic event that caused like the sphere to become a thing and Earth to become this, you know what I mean?
I have an idea of what it was, but I don't really want to go into it this early on, especially because I do have a spoiler that could potentially relate to it.
Got it.
And I don't fully know yet if it is related to it or not.
Yep. So, either way, I'm glad they're touching on this kind of sequence, that kind of thing. Still don't know what's up with the damn volume, but that is what it is. We got Pseudo introduced to...
This was a very loud episode in general.
Yeah, it was pretty loud in general, but there was a lot of something we didn't talk about in the at the end of the reaction. There was, we talked a little bit about this guy who's like the guy who like makes their clothing and like their masks so that, you know, they can survive and stuff like that. So we'll probably get more on them at some point in the future, but they seem like a very eccentric individual, and anybody you can't give a deadline to, well, you better hope they're not, you know, working on it for like 3 years or something. So, you know, that is what it is. But it sounds like this person gets the job done eventually and in a reasonable amount of time. So we'll probably get more on that. We talked a little bit about the graffiti stuff before the episode. So, if that guy really was the stand-in for that artist, maybe the little girl, like the successor, is maybe the stand-in for the artist. Something like that. But hell, maybe it's just the vital instrument is like the representation of that graffiti artist from real life. That'd be kind of an interesting way to pay tribute to someone. It's not necessarily a character, but something that transcends the character, is the vital instrument itself, which, as we saw here, can be inherited. Its will can be inherited and passed on. So that's definitely interesting. We got introduced to the members of the other company, the other squad, or one of the other squads. I think there's a couple others besides Engine's company, and then like the group that these guys are a part of.
You kind of died out for me for a minute there, but yeah, I know there's other teams within the Cleaners. I don't know how many other teams there are, but yeah, like Engine leads his own team, and there's at least like 2 other teams, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many exactly there are.
Yep. So,
but yeah, and Engine leads his own team, which Zonka and Rio are part of. And the supporters just kind of go with whatever team needs them. They're not really assigned to any specific team. So Gris and Folo, I know, are supposed to be like basically inseparable and typically go with Rio most of the time.
Right. So either way, getting a little bit on them was interesting. This guy is very loud. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Passionate. Yeah, I think that's the term they used. So, you know, maybe his vital instrument is like a morale boost or something like that. Maybe like a buff guy or something like that. Though he is a buff guy, that could be the joke.
I mean, I want to say his vital instrument is his hat, just because they put so much detail into his hat.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see what these other characters have for their vital instruments, like what they do. We obviously know that the leader will remain mysterious for a while, but or at least a reasonable amount of time, obviously. Or if we ever know. We might never know. That'd be kind of hilarious, actually, if we just never find out. I'd appreciate the just, you know, sheer audacity of not revealing it. That'd be impressive. But yeah, we got a little bit more on those characters, what they're up to. Obviously more on Canvas Town. That's interesting. I got to make the Half Dome joke. Don't get to do that like ever. You know, I think I got to make a Half Dome joke like one other time. I want to work it in more because there's potential for Half Dome jokes and people aren't taking them. It's disappointing.
We did see that the other town that they stopped on the way here, like when Engine first picked up Rio, had a similar like shielding to it.
Yep. As
like they were saying, that's just kind of a thing. Like for establishing a big city, is you have to be able to, if you want to build a permanent location, it has to be able to withstand if the sphere goes overhead.
Yeah, because then you're just getting literally dumped on. It's not pizza rain from Steven Universe. It's literal trash rain. So you could be walking around your town, and all of a sudden, here comes the sphere, and you get somebody's freaking not even like 1-year-old washer dryer set that they scuffed, so they threw it out and it lands on you and murders you like a freaking Looney Tunes sketch.
Yeah, just walking around on your front porch and then suddenly take a fridge to the forehead.
Pretty much. So that's one of those things, along with like the radiation stuff we were talking about there at the end of the reaction. Was not that it's radiation, but like it's their pollution stuff is kind of like radiation way. They have other things to worry about, like raining trash, and it's not just, well, what's the problem? They're getting hit in the face with like bags of trash. Yeah, you guys realize that people throw out major appliances. Age mentioned the fridge. They could throw out anything, and depending on how high up the sphere is, which it's up there, you get hit by a 3-pound bag of trash that's going terminal velocity, it's gonna freaking hurt and or kill you. So just saying. It's gonna be reasonably dangerous if that kind of trash just falls on you. So definitely a reasonable concern for what's going on here. So either way, we got more on not just.
I was going to comment on that other giver guy. I don't remember his name, but the other guy of the second squad clearly is one of the people who adds it out for spherites.
Yeah.
So we had that established that like there's a lot of people from the ground who have just an absurd hatred towards the spherites.
Right.
Just in general.
So that kind of goes like hand in hand with like my speculation there was when was their, like, just call it their cataclysmic event that caused the sphere to go up and everybody else to remain down or whatever. If that's the case, was it recent enough that, someone of this guy's age, like what, at most mid-30s, maybe 40s, was around for that? You know what I mean? So
I don't think so, because once again, we have the whole thing of like, it seems like it's been at least a few generations because people don't know what actually happened. It's been at least long enough, but it's been at least a few generations, so it's like been long enough that like the fact that they're only real like documentation, it's hearsay, it's faded enough that no one actually knows what exactly the situation is.
Right, but you could still have like a prejudice toward them for what they do. Well, they're still dropping trash on them.
Yeah, it's still a thing of like, the sphere is literally destroying the world that we live in, and potentially is directly responsible for like the deaths of people that we know.
Yep.
Like in this whole situation here with Job, he once again specifically like calls out Rudo, like, "Oh, don't you feel responsible?" Like basically, his whole thing is he does it several times throughout this episode where he's like, "Well, we've heard what you say your backstory is, and that you shouldn't be directly responsible for any of the stuff that's happening, but you're still a spherite, and spherites should feel responsible."
Yep. So that's just one of those things that's not easy to break. So it will be interesting to see what comes of that situation with that character. But either way, we got your atypical stave / word magic. I mean, Engine did call it magic. It's pretty much magic, right? To be fair, any giver power could be seen as magic. So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, anima in general could just kind of be seen as magic. And it's basically just, literal soul power.
Right. And no matter how outwardly good intentioned these guys could be, like, oh yeah, we're just here to, like shop around and do whatever. There's no lying to, your true self when it comes to spells like this. You can't go full Scott Pilgrim and be like, I'm not going to punch him in the face. I'm not going to punch him in the face, but I'm really going to punch him in the face. You know what I mean? And get through a ward spell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if you're if you're just going to walk into the town to collect your groceries, a circle of protection against evil is still going to repel you if you're evil.
Yep. So stuff like that is always hilarious. Once again, the graffiti, major part of the show we talked about, that all of it very cool. But this episode went from just kind of, it looks like it's gonna be your standard, we're gonna go do a thing and then come back and Naruto's gonna get his mask next episode or whatever, and then they're on. But it got very somber and serious with stuff like that, and then with the fact that we learned that potentially certain vital instruments can be passed on, and the will can be inherited in that way.
I don't personally, once again, I don't have a lot of source material knowledge, but I don't personally know of any other inheritable instruments besides just the pen. But from my knowledge, the pen is one of the strongest instruments in the source material currently.
From what we've seen, if it's able to protect a city that size, and generally speaking, a spell like that is going to be serious business, especially since if he can temp or Job, and now this girl here can potentially temporarily buff somebody by tagging them, or tagging a piece of their clothing, or however they do it, to give them a buff for you now have pollution resistance at max for the next 37 hours, whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's
From what I know, the main limitation to the pen is, once again, it's specifically oriented towards art and protection, and it's specific stipulations of it's kind of like the freaking that guy in Hunter x Hunter where he makes the haiku and then the haiku takes effect, where it's you have to, the wielder of the pen has to figure out what exactly kind of spell they want to cast, and then they have to make an artistic interpretation of whatever that spell would be.
Right.
And then it's that very specific thing. Engine explained it in this episode, where if they wanted to, they could make a spell that protects the wall from being destroyed the first time someone tries to break it.
Yep.
Or in the case of the stave around the city, it's a spell specifically that keeps anyone who has ill intent from entering.
Yep. But based on what the mayor was saying here, after she set off her grandiose fireworks display here, I assume it has some sort of recharge time based on its usage or something. Because he did have that line of well, I guess it's going to be even longer till you can get your your spell or cast or whatever he called it.
That I don't know, but he could very well just be referring to the fact that they're going through with the celebration now instead.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things I was going to clarify. One thing I was going to clarify though, Gremlin has no defined gender. They're like Krona and whatnot, where the author just deliberately leaves them genderless.
Got it.
Which apparently was there was a bunch of controversy when the anime was coming out, in that at least on the Japanese side, apparently they were referring to Gremlin as male, which once again the authors made a point of Gremlin having no freaking specified gender.
Yeah, well, that's always going to be a hot button topic for the foreseeable future, I'm sure. So that is just what it is. But
it's a pretty common thing in anime for authors to have genderless characters.
Just go full androgynous.
For one reason or another, they just don't feel like assigning a specific gender to the character because they don't feel like the character needs it.
Yep.
And it used to just be a thing where people would just be like, okay, and move on, with Krona. back in the day, but
Not now.
these days people make more of a deal of it than ever.
Yeah. So I'm not too concerned about it. It is what it is. So either way, solid episode for what it was. I didn't really have a huge amount to say about this one. We got to the inherited powers stuff, and then I guess I was going to question. With the fact that Job dies and his ward spell was still in effect around the city, is that more because the pen is able to be inherited and move on to somebody else, or is it just that spell is just there now, unless it gets broken by something else?
I don't know if the pen being destroyed would potentially stop the spells from working, but yes, if the art gets destroyed, then the spell stops. So, like, for example, if you destroyed the gate, you could pass through the gate even if you had ill intent.
Right.
But, yeah, apart from that, I don't know about if the pen being destroyed potentially stops stuff. As far as I know, the pen hasn't been destroyed, but once again, I don't know very much.
Right. So, something that might come up at some point in the future, or we can just kind of check it out later in the series, but that's just something to randomly think about. But again, that's all I got. I'm enjoying it. Solid. You got anything else, Edge? Excuse me. Nope. Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond however you're watching, we always appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the Dojo. This was Gachiakuta, Season 1, Episode 9. So have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.